Well, here we are. I'm Tom Osman, and this is Whatever Comes Next. It's a podcast where I explore the world of underground and independent music making. And on today's episode, I am joined by noise rock veterans God Bullies, who have just released their first album in 30 years, As Above, So Below, on Reptilian Records. And sadly, last year, David B. Livingston, longtime collaborator with vocalist Mike Hard and former God Bullies member, passed away. And this current iteration of God Bullies, aside from Mike Hard, is an entirely new lineup as far as God Bullies is concerned. But in fact, the guys had all been playing together for quite a number of years, most significantly in Thrall. And as you'll hear in the interview, Mike Hard and guitarist Scott Kodrik actually go way back. So, as you would imagine, for musicians that have been in the underground music trenches for decades, they have plenty of stories to tell, and I'm going to let them tell them for you. The band is currently on tour in North America. I will put all links in the description so you can go and have a look and see if they're going to be playing somewhere near you. And if you would like to see what I've been doing musically, I have just released an album with Augurio Drama called Real Silence. It doesn't sound anything like God Bullies, but it is quite weird, so you might like it. And you can go check out information on that at tomosmansounds.com. You can also go to Drama Recorder on Bandcamp, where you can check out the album directly. You can follow me on all social media at Tom Osman Sounds. And I believe now there is nothing left for me to say, but Mike Hard and Scott Kodrik of God Bullies, take it away.
Did the Golgoth on the back of a donkey with the 12 apostles all begging for money, carrying the head of John the Baptist wrapped up in the gift for the fascists. Go a party with the high priest and pay off the politicians and paint a brand new face on the world's oldest profession. As above, so below.
And so obviously, we are partly here to talk about As Above, So Below. I guess it is. Now, I know that the two of you have got kind of quite a long history going back playing with each other, but this is your first album together as God Bullies.
Yes. Yep.
So I suppose really an initial question that I should ask is why in 2024 was it time to bring God Bullies back to life?
Oh man, it's a very simple. We this whole thing started with us wanting to do a Thrall reunion for Hung Like God, and Johnny Johnson played guitar on that, and we are going to do like a 25, 20, something like 30, whatever, 25 years since we're out, we're going to do a show, and so we're rehearsing for that show, and then unfortunately Johnny Johnson passed away during those rehearsals for this one show we were going to do in Detroit.
The other guitar player.
Yeah, the other guitar, our Thrall guitar player. So we called David up and said, listen, we've been jamming for a while. You want to come back in with this? Because I did They Never Sleep with David. And he just jumped right at it. So we started rehearsing with David. And a couple of these songs David co-wrote. And then he passed away. And this is about a year and a half of each other. And it just, it's just really hurt me because I've been with David for 40 years or something like that. I mean, he's been my main songwriter. And then, of course, Scott's one of my main songwriters as well with Thrall. And
David, Mike, and I, we've all known each other. I mean, Mike's known David forever. I knew David at that point, I think for, 15, 20 years, something like that. And this other project that we did, it was almost 2.5 years that we were playing, and we were just about to put something out with David when he passed away. So
right. So these are two really good friends that this album wouldn't even have happened without Johnny saying, hey, let's get together, get into this 25-year reunion. And then it kind of just snowballed after that. Yeah. And then when David passed away, we were like, oh my God, David Livingstone was not only a big part of God Bullies, but a huge part of that whole noise scene. I mean, he was editor for Your Flesh. He did a couple I know he did one Cows album, recording them. And he's just a big part of that underground scene. And he's such a great friend. So we just wanted to do this kind of as a memorial to Johnny and to David. and we had a lot of these songs pre-written. And so we said, fuck it, man, let's do it. Actually, we played a live show in Dubuque, and we did a Thrall plays God Bullies, and we put it in Dubuque, Iowa. We asked
Chicago,
Illinois as well. It's like, hey, what do we do? You know, we've been doing this, and we were out as Thrall, and we said we're either going to do this as Thrall or God Bullies, and everyone in the audience is like, God Bullies, God Bullies, God Bullies. So we kind of listened to our fans, and then we followed our heart with our two, my best friends, and decided to do this record. Yeah, it's kind of a memoriam to them. And then we just really loved the music we were making together. So we said, like, yeah, let's do this, man. I'm not getting any younger. So, let's rock it out a little bit.
I mean, I think we kind of, the way we did it too, we sort of, we tried to rebrand it. So it's, God Bullies now, we didn't want to be, trying to, like, I didn't want to be David and rip off David, or try to do something where we're at now. Mike and I played together for 37 years.
Yeah, and for every time we play a Thrall show, we'd throw a couple Bully songs in on the encore, and then David would come in, like, we do a Thrall show, and if David was around, he'd come up and play the God Bully sets, on guitar with us. And, we even, like I said, he was always kind of in and out of our live, performances, and these guys grew up on him. I mean, when I met Scott, he was like 18 years old. And that's a whole nother story of how he got a hold of me. And we've already talked it on other interviews, but they kind of just hunted me down once they realized that I kind of didn't want to do Bullies so much anymore. And that was like 25, 30 years ago. And then we started Thrall. Well, we actually did Hand Over Head.
I was just about to say, because I was aware, like, because you two were in that band during the time that God Bullies was still going in the early 90s, right?
Well, we just started, like, that's me. As soon as I moved from Kalamazoo to Ypsilanti, this guy hunted me down.
So God Bullies had broken up, and the other guitar player or bass player in Hand Over Head, we were looking for a singer. I didn't want to sing. I just wanted to play guitar or drums or whatever we were doing there. And drums is what I was doing because we couldn't find a drummer. And he said, "There's this guy, and he's in this band called God Bullies, and he's not playing with them anymore." And I heard the record, and
they put fucking wanted posters up.
We didn't have cell phones back in that day, right? So I'm like, how can I find this guy? So I put these flyers up all over this town, Ypsilanti, where he lived, and one of them just happened to be on a telephone pole right out in front of his apartment. And John Brandon from Laughing Hyenas saw it, took it off the pole, and gave it to him and said, "This guy's looking for you."
Now, what did you think when you saw that poster? Because I would imagine, like, you might be flattered, but you also might think this is kind of unnerving.
Yeah, it was unnerving. And the funny thing is that before John gave me the poster, he's like, "This dude's looking for you, man. I gave him your address." I mean,
he didn't call for 2 weeks.
He's like, I don't want to, I'm sorry, but I think, it might be an opportunity. So anyway, John, and he came over to my apartment with Larissa from when he was in L7 and with her in Laughing Hyenas. So it was kind of funny. Johnny kind of warning me about him. So
we were 20 years old, so we were just under drinking age. So we were practicing in my parents' basement, the soundproof room, and there was 3 of us besides him, and he came over, and I just remember him going, "You guys can't even drink beer. I gotta buy beer for you guys." And you're practicing in your parents' basement, So, like, I mean, the music was good. So he ended up, at first he didn't want to do it, and then he ended up deciding to do it. And we ended up touring all over the place and putting out singles on Sympathy for the Record Industry. Mark Dancy did like the artwork for it.
Big Chief.
I think it was we were around for like a couple of years, and then that turned into Thrall later on. So
our relationships has kind of been incestuous throughout all these years, back and forth. Yeah. And these guys have been playing God Bullies songs longer than the original God Bullies. I mean, really.
And I always had like the utmost respect for David, even before David and I became friends. He was a great songwriter.
And that's why I think people still feel they hear God Bullies in this recording, because Scott played. I mean, we were playing together for 2 years with David, rehearsing twice a week, and it kind of rubs off on you. And so I think there's a lot of that God Bullies style. And, the funny thing about Thrall and even Brainsaw is that in They Never Sleep was Karen Neal, a fantastic bass player, Queen Bee. She was like a devout Christian. And so, I had to remove that target from my lyrics or what I was, talking about just to appease her. And there's enough shit going on in this world where I didn't really have to pick on the Christians so much with her in the band. So this allowed me to kind of, especially with what's going now in our country, to kind of pick it up again and say confront a few of the issues I have a problem with and I don't understand. And I'm trying to put those out to other people so they'll help me understand what the fuck is going on.
Well, talking about confronting different issues, I kind of get the impression that with God Bullies originally, part of what was fueling the band was kind of like a reaction to the political climate that was going on at the time. So you kind of had like the tail end of the Reagan era, you had the George Bush era.
Well, you had Jim Baker and Heritage USA and Jessica Hahn, doubling up on Jim Baker and Jerry Falwell. And you just had all this really terrible spiritual corruption as well. I mean, that politics are politics, but when you start fucking with someone's spirituality and their soul, to me, that's a deeper concern. Politics, hopefully through reason and talking, although we don't have that right now, you can kind of meet a middle ground. I mean, that's what democracy is. You don't get everything you want. You get what everyone wants, or at least try. When you start messing with people's soul and saying they're going to heaven, or they lived a life of sin and doing terrible things to people, and then all you got to do is be saved, and you can start all over again. I mean, Christianity is one of the only religions that really have that. I mean, look at Buddhism or any other type, Taoism or anything. You got to kind of live the spiritual path. It's not like backsliding and save me, Lord, I'm good now and I'm going to heaven now after all this bad shit I did my whole life. So that really was a big issue with this hypocrisy of that's going on really bad right now. Was kind of inking out during that Reagan era, like you were saying. Yeah.
So do you feel like now that you've got God Bullies again, and obviously, like you say, you've been playing together and you played the God Bullies songs as part of Thrall, but now that you're actually going on stage and it's like, we are God Bullies again, and you've got the record under the God Bullies name, do you have that kind of like same feeling that's driving you in the band, or does it feel like a different kind of energy?
When I get on stage, I feel the power of the music. And I wrote the songs, and it's to me, when I get on stage, I'm kind of selfish because I literally go through this whole, by the end of the set, I feel like I've exercised a lot of thing. I don't know. I just feel like totally healed when I get done with a set. I really go through it. I really go through it, and I love that just as much as what I share with our fans. But yeah, I do a transformation on stage just from the energy that these guys create in what the audience has.
I mean, I think we've been playing, him and I have been playing so long together, and even Cliff, our drummer, and the bass player, Pat, he's been playing with us for a long time too.
I did the Mike Hard show for a while, and Pat was my bass player for the Mike Hard show. And I would do, that was like, we're all the bands, we play a little bit from each band.
So. And, with this album that we just did, I think that like, I've always been kind of it gets me in trouble with him, but I've always been kind of a metalhead. Like I like heavy-ended music, so he was worried that this album was going to be kind of too heavy, and people were, God Bullies fans were going to say, hey, it's way too heavy for God Bullies album. And my feeling was, this is exactly what we should do, with you up front and like a driving force behind you. I think this is going to, go balls to the walls and kick them where it hurts. And everybody said, really good things about it so far. So I think we got, I had a good feeling about this when we came out of the studio.
That's the word I was looking for. Vibration.
There you go.
Frequency and vibration create energy. And that's me. The frequency of the music and the vibration of the crowd and just the massive sound creates energy inside of me it goes right through my body.
Yeah, well, to Scott's point about, feeling like you've managed to put together a good sound for the album, I think you really have. There's this kind of I want to say kind of murkiness, but I don't mean that in a sort of like a lack of clarity with the instruments. I think what you've managed to do is you've given this sense of kind of like claustrophobia with the record. Everything is like sounding quite distinct, but it doesn't come across as metal because it's not kind of like, I would say, it doesn't really have that kind of like shininess of metal. It's kind of dirty and gritty, but it's also got
Right.
like a very thick, rich sound. And now I know that you went to electrical audio studios,
Yeah.
and
That's why we have that sound.
sadly, another person that we've lost recently is Steve Albini.
I
But
know it.
Right after we got out of there.
And Scott was talking
week
to him
later.
like right up to, I was surprised. Steve Albini was so cool. I worked with him before when he had the studio in his house, and we did a record Millennium, and it wasn't a very good session, and so I was kind of reluctant to even go there. But oh my gosh, the record has that live sound of that room. And we did that in 2 days. I mean, they came down and put the music down the first day, and the second day I came and did vocals, and
it's an amazing
studio.
studio.
It has that live feel to it, a really good live feel. I pretty much did a lot of the vocals just one take all the way through.
We were in
these guys were like, "Damn, he's done already."
We were in the B studio. There's two studios there, but the B studio is a live, drum room, and it's got that big drum sound.
Yeah,
and that's I've always wanted to go there, like since he built that place. And
yeah,
and then the guy that was behind the board for us was this guy Sanford Parker, the engineer, and he's kind of like, he's worked with Steve, and him and Steve were really good friends. And Sanford's the guy that does a lot of the digital stuff. Steve would never touch any, like, Steve only does 2-inch tape. And like, as a matter of fact, when Steve, passed away, Sanford had to come in and finish the band that Steve was recording on 2-inch tape. And my question is, to Sanford was, I'm like, are you going to finish it digitally, or are you going to keep doing 2-inch? And Sanford was like, I'm already on the edge, but he's like, if I were to do this digitally, Steve would be rolling over. He's like, there's no way I would do this. So, it was the tape machine was already calibrated, so Sanford went in there and finished it up for him. But
yeah, it's an amazing studio.
Yeah, that studio is it's like
I was very reluctant
it was awesome
to go back there. I was, because there's people we worked with in Detroit that's won Grammys that we're friends with, and we could have gone in there as well. And I was reluctant about how he would do my vocals, because Livingstone and I pretty much always did my vocals together, and we kind of would use a lot of effects. It's funny, I kind of wanted to do some effects on the vocals on this, and Stanford's like, no man, let's just do it, just straight up. A couple things I thought I was kind of pitchy or whatever on, and he's like, no man, it's that live sound. I love it.
So big,
and I'm so glad I listened to him. It's like, because I could have kind of muddied it up like some earlier God Bullies records. But yeah, so that was his input, and I went with it, and I really liked the vocals on this record.
Yeah.
I think they're very live and very they have a lot of emotion and feeling in
definitely.
them.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, to that point, in terms of your vocal performances, like, there's a few tracks where I would say there's kind of like a pleading kind of desperation in them, which is quite an interesting sort of effect. Like I'd say, like, Save Me, You Never Know,
Help.
and then particularly Help. Exactly, that's the one I was going to say. Like, you're really kind of screaming on that one. So you mentioned before that, like, you were kind of 1 or 2 takes getting these out. Did you have to kind of like psych yourself up for these performances, or did you just sort of find it came naturally once you're in the studio?
Well, yeah, I've been in our studios for years. I mean, we put out like 10 records. I didn't feel any apprehension. It was just like I had this wall of sound in my fucking headphones from these guys, and it was just like, oh my God. And so yeah, it just pushed me to do the best I could. And like, I thought if I messed up some stuff that I could go, I'll just repunch it in and do it later, until Parker kind of said, let's just stick with what we got, Mike.
Yeah.
So Mike's kind of got this switch that he like turns on when he turns into his Mike Hard thing. By day, like, people don't even recognize him in the daytime. He looks like a librarian or something. And then, when he gets in front of a mic, whether it's on stage or in the studio, I mean, Sanford's never seen it before, so he's just like, we're all watching him. He's like, this is the best. This is better than anything I've ever seen in movies. Like, this is just he couldn't even take his eye. He was trying to be, work, but he's just sitting there like watching Mike through the window. I mean, that's one thing. It's like him and I fight like cats and dogs sometimes. Not so much anymore, but one thing is I have always respected what this guy does, on stage and in a studio. I mean, he's
takes care of business, man.
It's like Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, I do have kind of that split personality. I don't know where it comes from.
It's
I think
It's
I guess
good,
we all have to work for a living, and so people don't really see me like I would like when I get that music in me.
Yeah. Thinking about like kind of the origins of this character or the origins of this kind of intensity, like would you put this down much to Kalamazoo? Funnily enough, I've interviewed another band from Kalamazoo. Almost the first band I had on this podcast was a noise rock band from Kalamazoo called Bronson Arm. I don't know if you would have you would have come across them. I mean, there's America's a big place. There's a lot of noise rock bands out there, but how much would you say that Kalamazoo impacted on you and where you went with the music that you got into making?
Kalamazoo was everything. I mean, that's where I got out of the Navy. I had a GI Bill. And so I started going to Western Michigan University. That's where I met David. And back then it was there was venues to play. There was a huge underground scene. We had support from the college radio station. So music was being played all the time. So Kalamazoo had this really, really cool underground scene. Now it's totally disappeared. And a lot of it's because of, different types of music people listen to. There's not so much live bands there anymore. So it's really like, I don't even think we're going to be playing it anytime soon just because there's no place to play there anymore. So it's all kind of, college music, not so much underground music. We are very fortunate in the mid 80s to have that environment in that town. It was very special. Soda. And then again, Club Soda was one of the places gone. But it's going back to your question, Kalamazoo, once again, you have to go with this just really hypocrisy that was going on with, like you said, the Reagan era, where people were being measured by two different standards. And David always kind of was this guiding light to point me in the right direction or target David was so like, he was like a fucking genius. I mean, he's amazingly literate. And so,
great writer.
I had so much respect for him. Like we would talk and on road, when you're in the band, you're driving all night to the next show, staying up all night, listening to Art Bell, and all this stuff comes up, and you just start talking about this world we live in. And that developed that psyche of this Bible Belt guy that comes out in a suit and tie, and that's his uniform. And as long as he's got that suit and tie on, he's got the power of the suit and tie, regardless of what he's selling, a used car or Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter. It's the same person. He's trying to sell you something. And so I just embraced that character. It wasn't there at first. We were a lot more psychedelic and drug orientated kind of. And then with David's input, like the early God Bullies, Tommy Shannon wrote, I think, about half of the first record. So there's a little bit of different vibe there, but a lot of it's just being in kind of a big little city, and the same power exists, and just fighting that power and saying, hey, we're here, man. We might have a different opinion, but it's still valuable. No, Kalamazoo is just a typical Bible Belt American city. And, just a little bit north is Amway in Grand Rapids, which Amway is this huge, like, really crazy thing where it's like a pyramid scheme with like cleaning goods that people would sell to their neighbors. And we just thought that was just hilarious, but it's just look up Amway. It's $1 billion industry, and it's all about kind of this pyramid scheme. Like, you buy stuff, you sell it to this guy, he gets involved, then he sells stuff to this guy, and then you all get a piece of everybody else selling. So just
down the way, you got a Battle Creek, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, right?
Yeah. So
then you got Detroit, an hour away,
and you have these like working middle class of people that they go through the same thing you go through, yet their opinion is totally different from yours. Like, your take on it is exact opposite, and you're like, wait a minute, we're the same, man. We're not making 100, 200 grand a year. We're working every day of our lives to make our lives better, and yet you think it can be resolved with we don't. I don't want to get in politics too much, but we had just a different way to look at the hypocrisy.
To the point about, not making $100,000-$200,000 a year. I'm always interested to hear from kind of independent underground musicians about whether or not music can actually sustain them. So do you make a living from the music, or do you have to actually, have jobs
No.
outside of making music?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I sell books, and Scott is pretty much a roadie. Well, a union stage hand.
So I do. Yeah, I work for bands like Tool and gigantic arena bands, and set them up. And then the other thing I do is I work on films, doing special effects stuff. Now, this album, we've never done in 37 years anything like this, where this album, just got released a couple days ago, and the success of it is, I think this is a lot different, so we're hoping, it's not like we want to be millionaires. We just want to play our music on big stages and show people, share it.
Yeah, it's very
It's not about being rich, I don't think. It's about being able to go out and tour comfortably and make a living at it, and support your families, your house, your mortgage. That's sort of
it's
thing,
funny. We were doing God Bullies got asked to do a South by Southwest one time, and there's no money in any South by Southwest. It's all about PR or whatever.
Showcase.
So I put it to Corso and Adam and Tommy's like, hey, they want us to come down to Texas to play. And they're like, how much are they paying? I go, well, I think we're covered for maybe $50 a show, and maybe the gas. And they just laughed at me. Like,
now touring has changed. There's a lot more money in touring now.
A little bit more, but
which he still.
They're like, we won't cross the street for $50. And I was ready to go. I'm like, let's go, man. It's like
we're talking about the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. So that. I mean, it has to be like a labor of love. It's got to be something that you feel in your heart, and that's what it sustains, is my emotions and my spirituality. As far as like sustaining myself in this environment, in this world we live in, we haven't reached that with our music, and I don't really care. That's not going to stop me from writing music. It never has.
I think why we do it is because we love it.
Yeah, we love it, and it's just meeting people on the road that say, Mike, I feel the exact same way you feel. I understand what you're fucking saying. Just makes me feel like, wow, I'm not the only one here. I'm not this paranoid dude that I'm playing on stage. That this opens up people to say, yeah, that guy, he sold me a bad car. That guy stole my soul at church. Yeah, that's the guy. That's the enemy. And I don't mind playing the enemy if it makes people aware of who the enemy is.
Yeah. And thinking about going out and playing shows, now obviously the two of you will have loads of experience of having played lots of different venues and gone, played lots of different cities. Do you at this stage use a booking agent, or do you book shows all yourself?
Well, we have a booking agent, but Scott's pretty much the best booking agent we have.
Well, hold on.
We'll see. We'll see.
So,
yeah.
So I've been booking us for a long time, but we've had other agents, in those years, I think I learned from a guy named Peter Davis, who was preacher booking. This guy was a pit bull.
He was pretty much Tom Hazelmeyer's in Sub Pop and AmRep. He did all that noise stuff, and that was when there was absolutely no money. You're playing for pizza, basically, and free beer.
But let me back up. But our agent now, his name is Joey, and he works for Tone Deaf Touring, and he's a great agent, But the thing is, we just started playing again, so now the reviews are coming out and all that stuff, and people are, a lot of these people, the younger generation, they don't know who God Bullies is. So like, in some of these promoters, buyers, they don't know who we are. So, it's been a fast transition, but this guy's he's a good agent.
Yeah,
so
I don't get involved in any of that shit. I just say, point me where you want me to go. I get upset maybe because I don't know. I got this bad feeling with agents and all this stuff. It's like they're all making money off me. He's sitting at home getting 15%. By the time you take the hotels, the gas,
he doesn't realize how much
he's making more than I am, and I'm the fucking hacked. So
there's a lot to it. Yeah, he doesn't work in that world. So
yeah, I don't want to think about it.
I kind of do all that
He's like, trust me. His favorite words are trust me. Trust me.
I'm trying to make the guy comfortable,
It's going to be good.
We've got a great agent now.
But as far as venues, I hate to say it, it's like, I don't think we're not I would love to play bigger venues, but I love these clubs that we play where I'm right on the floor. There's no stage. We're right there in the face of the audience. I love it, man. That just like, that even ups my game like by 10 when I'm right there with them. I'm not really big on the big stages and standing above people and looking down and singing my songs. I would much rather be in a club on a stage, maybe just so they don't step on the gear a foot or two off the ground, and then I can go right back into the audience. So
yeah,
I mean, what we're working for is these shows that we're doing that we're touring right now. We're playing small, like up close and personal clubs, and he doesn't believe it, but our goal here is to be in 1,000 cap theaters, that small theaters by like next year, and I'm sure
he's blowing smoke up my ass.
It's pretty feasible. He doesn't get it. Anyhow, yeah, that's why I deal with that. Anyhow.
And thinking about like the stage setup you've got, like I know in the past with God Bullies, you like to have, like pornography around and dolls and religious iconography. You still going for that kind of setup on stage?
These guys love that shit. I mean, they come out, Mike, I got this baby doll I just got, and I tied it to the cross. We can use it on stage. And I'm like, I'm older. I'm a dad now. I play with my kids' dolls enough, but we definitely like the iconography, or just like taking those icons and ripping them up, and we would do a lot of we would get pornography on stages with the cross. It seemed like it all worked together, like good and bad, evil and what's the opposite of evil? But anyway, it's
we're still doing smoke and lights and all that stuff.
Yeah, and pornography, you can't get a good pornography book anymore because it's all online. So I don't know. Maybe we'll find some old magazines. I don't know.
I mean, our setup's pretty big.
I do like the Bible. I do like burning that. I mean, that's fun to me because it's pyrotechnics and
happens a lot.
Yeah. You gotta cover the basics.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Start with the basics. So there's usually a couple Bibles on stage. There's maybe a couple flags. I know I've come out like with the American flag just totally wrapped and tied around my neck and over my head when I'm kind of on stage. I'm not adverse to using props at all if that's what it takes to get the point across.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like he's talked about the roadie thing that, like a lot of these bands, like every single band has this giant video wall and all these props and all this stuff on stage. We're not that band.
Scott's like, we need to get a banner. And I'm like, I don't need no fucking banner. I mean, they're going to look at the banner instead of me. Oh, there's God Bullies. No, fuck that, man.
So we're more of a, big amps, drum set, lots of smoke and lights and Bibles and baby dolls. That's us. So simple.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I've made the icons very simple. Use the basic ones that get the point across now.
Yeah.
But I haven't used pornography since the Bullies. That's
all right. Okay. Well, I mean, there's always the possibility of bringing it out.
I've seen him naked too many times on stage.
Yeah, I might. Yeah, I mean, I like I like the friction it causes in a live set. And then I love it when I tear the Bible pages out, and then they get mixed with the porn on the stage. And to me, it's a beautiful mess. It's like good and evil, good and evil. They're going to pick up the Bible page or pick up this picture.
Yeah.
Temptation.
Indeed. And thinking about visuals, I'm very curious about what I can see behind you. So where are you? And tell me a little bit about, what I can see on the walls, and, whose records are these behind you?
Oh, this is my my office. These are my records. There's another wall over here, another wall over there, and another wall over there. The posters are just posters from all the tours from Thrall, God Bullies, and my kids don't come out here. They're afraid to actually come out here, so which is good. And this is kind of where I do a lot of my writing.
We're in a barn behind his house. It's his kind of his man cave where he does all this stuff, and he's got 1 million books and 1 million records on him.
Yes,
cool.
I love books.
And a foosball table.
Yeah. No one in the band can beat me in foosball. They've tried.
He's not joking.
Even 2-against-1.
He's not joking.
So it's very relaxing. But yeah, I mean, psychedelic rock up here, psychedelic rock here, soul music here, jazz down on the bottom, punk over here, country western over here, folk over here, easy listening, a whole wall of it over there. So like easy listening, like Martin Denny and that Exotica stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of listen to it all. Female singers, I got it separated pretty well. But yeah, I love vinyl. I listen to it all the time.
He listens to a lot of really eclectic music.
Oh yes, and of course
you would never expect.
There's about 300 albums of just creatures right over there.
Makes sense.
To use for sampling and things like that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, because you've got a couple of samples on the latest album, right?
Yes. The main one we did for Dem Bones is this Detroit preacher called Jack Van Impe. And his wife's name was Rexzilla, and they were on every Sunday morning, like at 10 o'clock. And Jack Van Impe's thing is that he memorized every verse in the Bible. You ask him, John's 3:16, he'll run it right off to you. And he has all these albums like Trials and Tribulations, and he did a really famous one that we sampled called The Hook Generation, and an English band used it too. I'm trying to think of it. It's like Throbbing Gristle, I think, might have used it.
Oh, yeah.
But
cool.
One of those. Yeah, you use a sample. We used it first. During Act of Desire, that's the Hook Generation, where it was about the MC5 in Ann Arbor. Like, there's sex on every street corner, drugs in the street. It's the beat of the music, wilder and faster, faster and wilder. So
sounds pretty cool.
It's such a killer sample. Oh, it's great. Yeah. We put it on Act of Desire on the first record. Yeah, first record.
He's got thousands of books. You'd be amazed.
The problem is that people don't read anymore. The information they get is on their little thing, and it's not researched. And really, the thing with books is like most books are by major publishers, and they can't afford to fucking lie.
Yeah.
Novels and stuff are stories, but when you want to read facts, or no facts. Usually a good published book is you can kind of believe what they're saying. Some of the UFO stuff is just fun, and the alien and conspiracy and assassination stuff you got to read with a liberal mind.
Yeah.
But it's still, there's information in there you can use. I have probably 300.
I used to work in book selling for about 8 years, so you're preaching to the choir here. I appreciate books.
Oh, I love it. I owned a college bookstore for about 7 years. And it was a whole different thing because you're selling textbooks to college students, and that was like warfare because it was in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, and there was no we were the only off-campus bookstore, and so we sold used books, a lot of them, and the kids got a great value because the bookstore on campus would just sell them all new stuff, really 120, 130, just terrible prices for textbooks. So we were like the alternative store, and we lasted about 7 years, but the university thought we kind of tunneled into the side of the gold mine, and it was all out warfare after that. Once we got to about $800,000 a year in gross sales, they started giving us fake book reports. We'd order 30 books for a class, and then they'd say, oh, the professor changed the book at the last minute. And so you have like $3,000 in books that you got to send back, and then you don't have the class because you missed the opening on it. The kids all got their books. They just started pulling shit like that. Freedom of Information Act to get a professor's book report. So it got very, very difficult.
The ironic thing is Mike, myself, and the bass player, Pat, have all worked for the same college bookstore here in Michigan, this place in Meds back in the day.
Right.
All of us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I love books. Now I sell pretty much online. And that's another thing when you have a bricks and mortar store in the U.S. I mean, taxes. When you own a brick, everyone's knocking at your door to take a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
So now I can sell online. I have total control of my inventory and how I sell and who I sell to.
Now, thinking about the coming weeks and maybe months, and now that the album's out, what have you got lined up in terms of shows, and where are you planning to go?
Well, the Midwest is pretty much, we're not going too far away from home right now. because we can do weekends just fine and get out. So, and a nice thing about Detroit is that we're very close to Cleveland, Columbus, Louisville, even Philly and New York is only like we could drive there and play that night. Chicago, Madison, Minneapolis, Dubuque, Iowa. So we're kind of staying within a driving distance here.
For now.
For right now. And we want to see how it comes out too. It's like we kind of wanted to, God Bullies has been around for 35 years or something, but yet,
So depending on how far the ladder climbs in the next couple weeks, months, or whatever, how the album does, I mean, like we were talking about before, if we can sustain a lifestyle like that, we'll go out
like
on the
a
road.
week.
We'll definitely want to go out and tour. I mean, we were talking about going to Europe, but we don't want to go unless we're comfortable. So we've been around and toured, and we don't want to go through some shitty tour again. So
I'm too old to be
the right
on people's floors
places,
and staying up to 4 or 5 in the morning.
And I think at this point, it's like we've done the due diligence and we're worth it, So, if things happen the right way, then we'll go out,
I think anyone that's seen us live leaves with
something. We'd like to, we definitely want to go out and play. So.
I think if you see us live, you leave with something, and for the bang for the buck, playing these clubs for, $20 to get in or something, when you consider, it's $50 usually to see someone else, I think you're getting a good value, so.
I mean,
and you get in the places we're playing are very small, so they're intimate, which I love, and I think the crowd, our audience likes that as well. So we'll see, but
it all comes down to being comfortable, and if he can be comfortable, if we can be comfortable financially, then we'll go out
more than weekends, right?
Yeah.
But you're talking
full time.
It's hotels and gas is $4 a gallon, and it's just we love doing this, but we do have to pay our mortgages and all that other car payments, all that ritual.
He hasn't seen the insane touring stuff I've seen, so we'll be out there.
No, I've only done it.
Not lately. It's changed. That's what I'm saying.
See, I'm very jaded because I come through that time where we were literally out. Peter Davis and AMREP would have us out for a month at a time, and then we'd get back, and then we'd go out for another month on the East Coast, and we'd come back and do the West Coast, and then we'd come back.
These guys had like an hour to take showers in Europe. The whole band.
No money in it whatsoever.
5 bands in one band.
Well, motor,
right?
That was luxury, Scott.
That's what I'm saying. So those were the two. That's where he's coming from.
We did a European tour with the Cows, and we had the Cows and God Bullies in one of those like Mercedes, 8-passenger vans with through Europe for 6 weeks. And we had like all 8 of us in a driver in one of these. It was just like, oh my God, for 6 weeks, and on those tours you have to play like 40 days, 35 shows, So they all see this romance in it, I just see it's like a lot of hard work, and
he's been through the ringer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
I'm jaded.
We're not doing it that way, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty understandable. Like you said, like there's only so long that you can really tolerate sleeping on floors for, before you have to give your body some respect.
Like sleeping setting down. Do that for a month.
and we're all older now. I'm 53. Pat's like 60. Cliff is the youngest guy in the band. I think he's like 45, something like that, maybe. So I mean, we don't. We play. We go back to the hotel and we go to sleep. And we get up and play again.
It's all about those 45.
It's not like before where you're staying up all night. And there's 20 people coming over and you're.
Yeah, it's crazy what you'll do for that.
We mellowed out.
45 minutes on stage. It's amazing. You'll drive 8 hours for that 45 minutes with your fans. That to me, it shows commitment.
Yeah, we'll put on a hell of a show.
It's not about money so much. It's the time.
Yep. Well, I think you've got a great record behind you to go and play these shows. So I hope you have some fantastic shows.
Yeah.
In the ones you're going to do now, and hopefully, if things go well enough, I'll get the opportunity to see you guys playing in Europe at some point, which would be very cool.
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah. And actually, I think Europe is so cool because they're still into this type of music. It's not like America where it's flavor of the month, and especially England. I was trying to tell my daughter the other day, it's like, British, but music is an industry in England. It really is. I mean, it's not like it is here. It's like a little, 1% of gross national product. I mean, really, you guys have it with, the magazines, like Mojo and, we used to have Melody Maker Sounds. You'd have these weeklies that would come out, and national weeklies about music. And
Yep.
we don't have that here. And I try to tell my daughter, just like, yeah, man, they just love music in England, man. All kinds of music, whether it's Northern Soul, grunge, metal, goth. I mean, you guys consume it way more than Americans do. And so I've always admired that about going to England. It's like just the bands that have come out of your country. I started way back with like Joy Division, and even before that with the Undertones and Buzzcocks, and
I'm a huge Sisters of Mercy fan.
Yeah, it's so. I love you guys, man. If we can get over there and play in front of you. I did get in trouble on a God Bully tour because you guys were doing that spitting thing back then.
Oh yeah, that was a little bit before my time, to be fair.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I was getting spit on, and I didn't like it one bit, so I kind of whipped it out and said, "Spit on this," And we got banned. We got 2 shows canceled because of that in England. You're not supposed to whip the willy out.
Some of the best reviews that we've got on this album so far from the UK. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
There you go.
Yeah, I love it, man.
Just tentatively calling you.
Yes. Is there any song that stands out to you on this?
Yeah, well, I have to say, actually, I think like
play more than once.
The one that's like going through my head most of all is actually the title track, As Above, So Below. Like I found today as I was driving around, I was like, just that refrain, just like constantly going through my head. Like it's very, very catchy, as I say, like in a kind of like sinister way.
Yeah, well, it's true. It was a lot of it came right out of the Bible. So I mean, it's not like I wasn't saying that something written by these guys before. It's and that whole. Yeah, people like Scott was saying he showed it to someone's dad or something, and they're like, "As above, so below." That's a satanic saying, And it's like, what? I mean, it was that saying is like been around for 2,000 years before Christ. And they just hop it and take it as their own, and it gets turned around. Yeah. And
he was asking him. He's seen a few things that we've done over the years. And I think he was just wanting to know if we were, some kind of satanic. I said, absolutely not. We're not a satanic. No. Mike tells stories.
I might be a little satanic.
He tells stories.
Yeah, I tell stories. But yeah, I love the story in that. And the part at the end with Galatians, I just picked up a book on Paul the other day, and I was reading it. And I always go to the index real quick and see if they say anything about the Galatians. And so it didn't say anything about Galatians, but then I looked up circumcision. And then it had Paul talking about what he did with the Galatians. So it's like, yes, this confirms it. I was right. Paul said, "You're nuts. You don't have to prove your love for Christ by cutting off your foreskin. You don't have to do that. You just got to have it in your heart, your soul. Hope, love, and faith is all you need, and love is the most important thing." And then after that, the church came through, put him in jail, and they said Paul didn't know Jesus because he didn't know he was circumcised. And the kid like, "Jesus is circumcised?" And it's like, yeah. And they're like, "We all want to be." And so I just think, it's hilarious. And Paul got put in jail for telling him, "No, you don't have to do that, man. You just got to have it in your heart." But then the church came and said, "No, you've got to do it."
And I think
he likes his history.
The topic of Jesus being circumcised or otherwise is a fantastic place to end this in a final thought for people to have. So, Mike and Scott, thank you very much. Until next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Night.
The world will have to bow to this beast to live. Refusal brings death. John the Baptist, wrapped up as a gift for the fascists. Go a party with the high priest and pay off the politicians and paint a brand new face on the world's oldest profession. As above, so below. As above, so below. to the watchers and giants. As above, so below. As above, so below. As above, so below. As above, so below. In my heart, I feel the hurt from what I found in heaven. Did you as above, so below. As above, so below. I find the planet from the fibers and vermin who invented the devil to save them from sin. I was just talking to Paul about his visit to the Galatians and how the church would round up all the frontmen make themselves prove they were Christian by taking a stone knife and cutting off the foreskin. Paul said no, it's too much pain and suffering. You gotta get while they're young. You gotta do it to the children. As above, so below. As above, so below.